My beloved child, do not scroll away from this moment. Listen carefully to me now, because what is happening around your life is not ordinary. You may think this is just another video, another message passing through your screen like countless others before it. But deep within your spirit, something already told you to stop here. Something inside you felt pulled toward these words, even before you understood why. That feeling was not random. I guided you here. Before this message ends, you will begin to understand why your breakthrough has been delayed, why your spirit has felt heavy, and why the battles surrounding your life have intensified recently. Because there is something happening in the unseen realm that you have not fully recognized yet. And today, I need you to hear me clearly. Do not let distraction pull you away. Stay with me, for this message may be the very confirmation you have been praying for in silence. My child, I know the weariness hidden behind your smile. I know the thoughts that keep you awake after everyone else has fallen asleep. I have seen the moments when you stared into the darkness, wondering if things would ever truly change for you. You tried to stay strong, you tried to keep believing, but lately something inside you has become tired. Not physically tired alone, but soul tired. You have carried burdens nobody fully understands. You kept showing up for others while secretly feeling empty yourself. You kept encouraging people while your own heart quietly begged for reassurance. You kept praying even during the seasons when heaven felt silent. And there were moments when you wondered, God, are you still listening to me? My beloved, I heard every whisper. I heard every silent cry you buried behind closed doors. I saw every tear you wiped away before anyone noticed. You were never abandoned, not for 1 second, even during the days when everything around you seemed delayed, when doors kept closing, when finances became unstable, when relationships grew confusing, when opportunities slipped through your fingers at the last moment. I was still there, closer than you realized. There were battles surrounding your life that you could not see with human eyes. There were moments when darkness tried to convince you that your story was ending in failure. The enemy wanted exhaustion to become your identity. It wanted disappointment to become your expectation. But I refused to let your spirit completely break. That is why you are still here. That is why, despite everything you endured, some small part of you still kept hoping. My child, listen closely now, because this next part matters deeply. The delay you have experienced was never proof that I forgot you. And the struggle surrounding your life is not as simple as you think. You believed you were only fighting financial pressure, emotional exhaustion, closed doors, and repeated disappointments. But beneath those visible battles, something deeper has been unfolding quietly. There has been a war over your confidence, a war over your identity, a war over your future. Because the enemy understands something about you that even you have not fully understood yet. You carry purpose, you carry influence, you carry a calling that threatens the darkness surrounding your bloodline. That is why the attacks intensified whenever you came close to breakthrough. Have you noticed the pattern? Every time you began moving forward, something suddenly happened. Every time hope started rising again, confusion appeared. Every time you came near peace, another storm emerged. You thought it was coincidence, but it was resistance. The enemy does not waste energy attacking empty destinies. And my child, you are not empty. You were chosen long before you were born, just as it is written in Jeremiah 29:11, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." Read those words again within your spirit. A future, not destruction, not permanent delay, not endless suffering, a future filled with purpose. But before you can step into that future, I must first awaken you to what has been happening around your life. Because many of my children stay trapped in cycles simply because they never recognize the spiritual warfare surrounding them. They blame themselves for everything. They think they are weak. They think they are cursed. They think they are forgotten. Meanwhile, heaven has been fighting battles they cannot even see. My beloved child, do not condemn yourself anymore. You have spent too much time believing the lie that you were the problem. You questioned your worth after every disappointment. You questioned your value after every rejection. You questioned your future after every delay. And slowly, without realizing it, the enemy began planting false labels inside your heart. Not good enough, too broken, too late, unworthy, forgotten. But those labels never came from me. I never called you a failure. I never called you abandoned. I never called you weak. I called you mine, and that truth terrifies darkness. Because the moment you fully remember who you are, chains begin breaking. The moment you recognize your authority, fear starts losing power over your life. The moment you stop agreeing with hopelessness, heaven begins opening doors the enemy tried to seal shut. That is why this moment matters. This is not just encouragement, this is awakening. My child, there are things I protected you from that you still do not know about. There were people who smiled in front of you while secretly carrying jealousy in their hearts. There were paths you begged me to open that would have destroyed your peace later. There were relationships you cried over losing that were actually assignments sent to drain your spirit. And when I closed those doors, you thought I was rejecting you, but I was protecting your future. One day you will look back and realize that some unanswered prayers were actually acts of mercy. I know waiting has exhausted you. I know uncertainty has worn your heart down. I know you became tired of starting over. But hear me carefully now. Your story is not ending in this season of confusion. Something is shifting already, quietly, deeply, powerfully. Even now, while you listen to these words, heaven is rearranging things you cannot yet see. Battles are being fought beyond your understanding. Chains are weakening. Doors are preparing to open. The very areas where you experienced the greatest resistance are becoming the places where breakthrough will suddenly appear. But you must not lose heart now. Do not retreat into hopelessness when your breakthrough is closer than you realize. Do not allow fear to convince you that nothing will ever change. Because the next season of your life will not look like the last one. The delay has been long, but it was not meaningless. The silence has been painful, but it was not abandonment. The warfare has been exhausting, but it will not defeat you. And soon, my child, very soon, you will begin to understand why everything had to unfold the way it did. But before that breakthrough arrives, there is one hidden truth about your life that you must finally recognize. Because what has been resisting your blessing may go deeper than you ever imagined. And in the next part, I will reveal why the weariness surrounding your spirit has felt so unusually heavy lately. My beloved child, I know you are tired, not the kind of tired that sleep can fix. Not the kind of exhaustion people notice when they look at you. This weariness lives deeper. It settled quietly inside your spirit after too many disappointments, too many delays, too many moments where you tried your hardest only to watch things still fall apart. And the hardest part is this. Most people around you have no idea how heavy your inner world has become. They see you smiling, they see you functioning, they see you continuing forward, but they do not see the silent battles happening within your mind every single day. They do not hear the conversations you have with yourself late at night. They do not know how many times you fought tears in places where nobody could comfort you. They do not know how close you came to giving up. But I know. I saw the nights when your chest felt heavy with anxiety while everyone else slept peacefully. I saw the moments when fear wrapped around your thoughts and whispered that nothing would ever change. I saw the disappointment in your eyes every time another door closed, every time another opportunity slipped away, every time you gathered the strength to believe again, only to feel hurt once more. My child, you have been carrying emotional weight for much longer than you admit. You became so used to surviving that you forgot what peace feels like. You learned how to function while hurting. You learned how to encourage others while secretly feeling empty yourself. You learned how to keep moving even when your soul was exhausted. But I never intended for you to live burdened like this. I never created you merely to survive. I created you to live in peace, in confidence, in closeness with me. Yet somewhere along the journey, disappointment started changing the way you saw yourself. You began questioning your worth because of what failed. You began measuring your value by what you lacked. You began believing that delay meant rejection, and slowly, quietly, weariness entered your spirit. Listen carefully now. This next part matters deeply. The enemy understands that exhausted people stop expecting miracles. That is why the warfare surrounding your life has focused so heavily on draining your hope. Because once hope weakens, faith becomes harder to hold. That is why you started feeling emotionally numb at times. You still prayed, but without expectation. You still worshipped, but with hidden disappointment buried underneath. You still believed in me, but part of your heart quietly feared that maybe breakthrough happens for other people more than for you. My beloved, do not be ashamed of those feelings. I understand your humanity. I understand how repeated battles can wear down even the strongest hearts. Remember Elijah. After witnessing miracles, after calling down fire from heaven, after seeing my power move mightily, he still reached a moment where exhaustion became so overwhelming that he wanted to run away and hide. Even great faith can become weary after prolonged warfare. That is why I am speaking gently to you now. Because your exhaustion does not make you weak. It reveals how long you have been fighting, and you have been fighting far longer than people realize. There were seasons when you smiled publicly while privately questioning everything. Seasons when you encouraged everyone around you, while your own spirit quietly cried for help. Seasons when you felt forgotten because your prayers seemed suspended between heaven and earth. You wondered, why does it feel like I keep getting close only to fall backward again? Why does peace never seem to stay long? Why does breakthrough always feel almost within reach, but never fully arrive? My child, the reason this battle has felt so intense is because your destiny carries weight. Darkness fights hardest against the people who are closest to transformation. That is why your attacks became heavier right before moments of potential breakthrough. The enemy wanted you emotionally exhausted before your season changed. Because tired people stop believing they deserve better. Tired people settle. Tired people stop dreaming. Tired people stop expecting heaven to move. But hear me now. I did not bring you this far to abandon you in the middle of the process. Even during your weakest moments, I remained beside you. When your faith became fragile, I held on to you. When your prayers became quiet, I still listened. When you questioned your future, I still protected your destiny. My beloved child, there were days you survived only because my hand covered you, even when you could not feel it. You thought you were holding yourself together alone, but heaven was carrying you. That is why you did not completely break. That is why, despite everything, some small light inside you refused to die. Because I placed it there, and darkness could not extinguish what I planted. Psalm 34:18 says, "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit." Do you understand what that means? It means your brokenness did not push me away. It drew me closer. I never despised your tears. I never grew impatient with your exhaustion. I never became disappointed in your struggle. In fact, some of the moments you felt weakest were the moments I held you closest. But the enemy kept trying to distort your perspective. It whispered, "You are too damaged now. You have waited too long. You will never recover. Nothing will change." And after hearing those lies repeatedly, part of your spirit started believing them. That is why your confidence became fragile. That is why fear entered your decisions. That is why hesitation started controlling opportunities I wanted you to walk into. Weariness does not only affect emotions, it changes vision. It makes future blessings feel impossible. It convinces people to prepare for disappointment before hope. And my child, you have lived too long expecting pain before peace. But I am beginning to shift something within you now. Slowly, gently, deeply, I am restoring your ability to hope again. Not false hope rooted in human circumstances, but deep spiritual confidence rooted in my promises. Because the next season of your life cannot be entered carrying the same hopelessness that wounded you in the last season. I need you to hear this clearly. Your exhaustion is not your identity. Your delay is not your destiny. Your disappointment is not your final chapter. There is restoration coming for your spirit. There is healing coming for your mind. There is peace returning to the areas where fear has ruled too long. But before that restoration fully arrives, you must understand something important. The enemy was never only trying to steal money from you, or opportunities, or relationships. It was trying to steal your expectation. Because expectation is dangerous to darkness. People who expect breakthrough keep moving forward. People who expect restoration keep praying. People who expect miracles refuse to surrender. That is why heaven is speaking to your weary spirit now, to awaken what exhaustion tried to bury, to breathe life back into your hope, to remind you that your waiting season has not been meaningless. My child, you are closer to breakthrough than you realize. Even if your emotions cannot fully feel it yet, even if your circumstances have not visibly changed yet, even if the silence has lasted longer than you expected, something has already started shifting, quietly, spiritually, powerfully. And soon, very soon, you will begin seeing evidence that the delay surrounding your life was never permanent. But first, you must understand why your miracle felt suspended for so long, because what has been happening behind the scenes is far deeper than simple bad luck or unfortunate timing. And in the next part, I will reveal the hidden reason your breakthrough was delayed, but never denied. My beloved child, listen to me carefully now. The miracle you have been praying for was never destroyed. It was never forgotten, and it was never denied. I know there were moments when it felt impossible to believe that anymore. After waiting so long, after crying so many tears, after watching doors remain closed month after month, part of your heart started preparing itself for disappointment instead of breakthrough. You stopped speaking about your dreams the way you once did. You stopped expecting good news with the same excitement. You stopped imagining a future larger than your current pain, not because you stopped loving me, but because weariness slowly convinced you that maybe your season would never change. My child, that lie has weighed heavily upon your spirit for too long. And today, I need to break it, because what you called delay, heaven called preparation. What you thought was rejection was actually protection, and what looked like silence was a hidden battle unfolding beyond your sight. You believed nothing was happening because you could not see movement with your physical eyes. But some of the greatest works I do happen invisibly before they ever become visible. Seeds grow underground long before fruit appears above the surface. And your breakthrough has been growing beneath the surface far longer than you realize. Listen closely now. This next truth is important. There were moments when your miracle came closer than you understood, but your spirit was not yet ready to carry the weight of what you were asking for. I know that may be difficult to hear, because you believed all you needed was immediate relief, immediate answers, immediate breakthrough. But I see beyond temporary comfort. I see your future. I see the full picture. And if I had opened certain doors too early, the blessing itself would have crushed the unhealed version of you. There were areas of fear still controlling your decisions, areas of insecurity still shaping your identity, areas of emotional exhaustion still weakening your discernment. And if certain opportunities had arrived too quickly, you would have entered them carrying the same wounds that almost destroyed your peace before. So I slowed things down, not to punish you, not to frustrate you, but to protect the destiny attached to your life. My child, many people pray for blessing while remaining emotionally unprepared for stewardship. Many ask for increase while still carrying the mindset of fear. Many ask me to elevate them while secretly believing they are unworthy to stand where I am leading them. But I love you too deeply to give you something that would destroy you later. That is why your process has been slower than you expected. Because I was healing your foundation while you focused only on the doors. I was strengthening your spirit while you focused only on the outcome. I was preparing your character while you focused only on the breakthrough. And one day, you will thank me for every closed door that protected your future from premature success. My beloved child, hear me now. Delay is painful, I know that. Waiting can feel unbearable when your heart is exhausted, especially when you watch other people move ahead while you remain stuck in uncertainty. You wondered why their prayers seemed answered quickly while your own breakthrough remained suspended. You wondered if maybe I favored others more than you, but that was never true. Every person carries a different assignment. Every destiny carries a different weight, and the greater the calling, the deeper the preparation often becomes. You are not behind. You are being formed. You are being refined. You are being prepared for something larger than your present understanding. Habakkuk 2:3 says, "For the vision is yet for an appointed time. Though it linger, wait for it. It will certainly come and will not delay." Do you understand what that means? It means heaven already established an appointed time for your breakthrough. Not a random time, not a forgotten time, an appointed time. And what heaven appoints, darkness cannot permanently stop. The enemy tried to convince you that delay meant defeat, but delay and denial are not the same thing. A door delayed is not necessarily a door closed. A promise delayed is not necessarily a promise canceled. And your miracle, my child, still carries my hand upon it, even now, especially now. There were unseen battles taking place around your life while you thought nothing was happening. Battles over your confidence, battles over your peace, battles over your willingness to continue believing, because the enemy understood something dangerous about your future. If you ever fully stepped into your purpose, healed, confident, and spiritually awakened, you would become a threat to every cycle of fear attached to your bloodline. That is why discouragement surrounded you so heavily. That is why hopelessness attacked your mind repeatedly. That is why exhaustion became one of the enemy's greatest weapons against you. Not because you were weak, but because your future carries impact. The enemy does not fear people who quit. It fears people who keep believing after prolonged warfare. And my child, despite everything, you are still here listening to my voice. That means heaven has not finished with your story. Do not overlook how significant that is. You survived seasons that should have emotionally destroyed you. You walked through disappointments that could have hardened your heart permanently. You carried grief that almost silenced your hope completely. Yet some part of your spirit kept reaching toward me, even when your faith felt fragile, even when your prayers became quiet, even when your emotions struggled to trust. You still remained near me, and I honor that more than you realize. Because some of the strongest faith is not loud faith. Sometimes the strongest faith is simply refusing to walk away during the silence. My beloved child, there were nights heaven watched you cry while still whispering prayers through tears. There were mornings you forced yourself to keep moving, even while internally exhausted. There were moments you almost surrendered emotionally. But something inside you still chose to hold on one more day. That something was not weakness. It was grace holding you together. And now, slowly, the season is beginning to shift. Not because you became perfect, not because you suddenly earned breakthrough, but because the appointed time is drawing closer. You may not fully see it yet, but things are already moving behind the scenes. Conversations are shifting, doors are aligning, people are being repositioned, battles are being fought in places your eyes cannot reach, and the breakthrough you thought disappeared is quietly approaching. But before it fully manifests, there is another truth you must understand. Because part of the warfare surrounding your life did not begin with you alone. There are deeper spiritual patterns attached to your bloodline. Patterns you inherited without even realizing it. And until you recognize them, you will continue blaming yourself for battles that were larger than your own mistakes. My child, what I am about to reveal next will explain why certain cycles kept repeating throughout your life. And once you understand it, you will never see your struggles the same way again. My beloved child, there is something I need you to understand now that will change the way you see your entire journey. The struggle surrounding your life has never been only physical. It has never been only financial. It has never been only emotional. What you have been experiencing is deeper than circumstances alone. There has been an invisible battle unfolding around your destiny, a battle your physical eyes could not fully see. That is why certain problems in your life felt strangely repetitive. That is why some battles kept returning even after you thought you had overcome them. That is why peace sometimes seemed close, only to suddenly disappear again. You blamed yourself for many of these things. You thought perhaps you lacked wisdom. Perhaps you lacked strength. Perhaps you lacked discipline. But my child, many times you were fighting forces far deeper than you realized. Ephesians 6:12 says, "For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against rulers, against authorities, against the powers of this dark world." Hear those words carefully. Your greatest battle was never truly against people, not against those who betrayed you, not against those who rejected you, not even against the circumstances themselves. There were unseen forces attempting to weaken your confidence, drain your peace, and delay your purpose. That is why some seasons felt unusually heavy. You kept trying to move forward, yet something invisible seemed to push back against every step. You prayed, you worked hard, you stayed faithful, yet progress still felt painfully slow. And after a while, confusion entered your spirit. You began asking yourself, why does everything feel harder for me? Why do I keep hitting invisible walls? Why does breakthrough always seem delayed? My beloved child, the enemy's goal was never simply to make you struggle. Its deeper goal was to convince you that your struggle defined you. Because once a person begins identifying with defeat, they stop resisting darkness. That is why hopelessness became one of the greatest attacks against your mind. The enemy wanted exhaustion to become your personality. It wanted delay to become your expectation. It wanted fear to become your identity. And slowly, without realizing it, you began carrying emotional chains you were never meant to wear. You became afraid to hope too much, afraid to dream too big, afraid to believe that life could genuinely improve. Not because you lacked faith, but because repeated battles trained your nervous system to prepare for disappointment. My child, I saw every silent wound forming inside you. I saw how rejection changed the way you viewed yourself. I saw how repeated setbacks weakened your confidence. I saw how betrayal made trusting people feel dangerous. And I also saw the hidden spiritual pressure behind those wounds. Because there are moments when darkness studies generational weaknesses within a bloodline, patterns, cycles, open emotional wounds passed from one generation to another. Fear, scarcity, addiction, shame, broken identity, hopelessness. These things often move quietly through families for years until someone finally rises up, spiritually awakened enough to break the cycle. And my child, that someone may be you. That is why your warfare intensified. Because the enemy fears awakened people. It fears people who begin recognizing the difference between temporary struggle and spiritual attack. It fears people who stop agreeing with hopelessness. It fears people who finally remember their authority. You thought you were merely trying to survive another difficult season, but heaven has been preparing a cycle breaker. Listen carefully now. This next part matters deeply. There were moments when you felt completely alone emotionally. moments when nobody truly understood what was happening inside your mind. You carried invisible heaviness that words could barely explain. Sometimes you even felt guilty for being tired because externally your life may not have looked completely broken, but internally you felt drained, constantly alert, constantly worried, constantly emotionally exhausted. That heaviness was not always natural. Some battles are spiritual before they become emotional. The enemy often attacks the mind first because thoughts shape identity, and identity shapes destiny. That is why darkness worked so hard to fill your thoughts with fear, insecurity, and self-condemnation. Because if it could control how you saw yourself, it could weaken how you walked through life. You started doubting opportunities before even trying. You started assuming rejection before people responded. You started shrinking your dreams before they had the chance to grow. And eventually, survival replaced expectation. But I did not create you merely to survive. I created you to walk in authority. I created you to carry peace even during warfare. I created you to become light inside dark places. And despite everything that attacked your life, the enemy still failed to destroy the calling attached to your spirit. That is why you are still standing. That is why your heart still reaches toward me. That is why something inside you refuses to completely surrender, because my hand remained upon you the entire time, even when you could not feel it, even when confusion clouded your vision, even when delay exhausted your hope. My child, there were spiritual battles you survived without even realizing it. Situations that should have broken you emotionally, but somehow did not. Moments where destruction came near your life, yet something protected you. That something was not luck, it was my covering. You were preserved for a reason. And now the season is shifting, slowly, quietly, powerfully. Because once awareness enters your spirit, chains begin weakening. The enemy thrives in confusion. It thrives when people blame themselves for spiritual warfare they do not understand. It thrives when exhaustion convinces people they are powerless. But today I am opening your eyes gently, not to create fear, but to awaken authority. You do not need to tremble before darkness. You only need to recognize that my power is greater than every force fighting against your future. Isaiah 54:17 says, "No weapon formed against you shall prosper." Notice what I said. The weapon may form, the battle may arise, the attack may come, but it shall not prosper. That means the warfare surrounding your life does not determine your ending. And my beloved child, your ending will not look like your current struggle. What you are walking through now is temporary. The fear is temporary. The confusion is temporary. The delay is temporary. But the purpose attached to your life is eternal. And heaven has not forgotten a single promise spoken over your destiny. Still, there is something deeper you must understand. Because not every battle surrounding your life began with your own choices. Some struggles were already present long before you were born. Patterns hidden within your bloodline. Cycles nobody talked about openly, but everyone quietly suffered under. And until you recognize these hidden roots, you will continue blaming yourself for battles connected to generations before you. My child, in the next part, I will reveal why certain struggles repeated throughout your family line, and why you were chosen to become the one who finally breaks free.